This is the Team Objection podcast for June 10th, 2021, episode 486. And we are here with not an entire Suns cast. How about that?
It's kind of amazing considering what we've been doing, but we gotta take a break sometimes.
We're still going to talk about the Suns. I was thinking about not doing it for the entire show, and then I thought some more about beating the Lakers' ass, and I figured we need to actually talk about it a little bit on air, on the record. You know, it's too good an opportunity to pass up. So we are going to talk about it a little bit, but in the second half of the show. So if you're like, oh, Suns again, first of all, fuck you. And second of all, we're going to get the other stuff first, and then we'll get to the Suns.
It'll be a better job than ESPN, that's for sure. So I was in the car the other day, and I was listening to ESPN, and like the bumper came on. Like they have like a full song, right? And it just played. Normally they do like announcements over it. I'm not kidding. The song played for like 5 straight minutes. No announcement, no anything. And I was like, I should change this, but now I'm like fascinated. And it just kept going and going and going. And it just never stopped. They just played the song on the radio for like 5 straight minutes.
You just kept hearing da-da-da.
No. It's like they have like a full theme song. It incorporates that a little bit, but it's like do just over and over. And at one point, I could hear where the loop was. Like it was wild.
I've heard that before.
ESPN,
worldwide
leader.
Yes, their Sports Center bumper, and now they just somehow somebody screwed up a button. And let me tell you, I mean, considering we lost entire episodes of the K-Jack radio show that we did, or at least like parts of it, or like remember, I think one of the ones that all 4 of us were on, we lost the entire first segment, and by segment we're talking like half hour.
Yeah.
Because I think it was like one button was toggled. It was in like preview mode instead of live mode. So on the one hand, it's funny because there should be enough checks and balances where that doesn't happen, but we know it can happen. Look what's happened to us. It happens.
I'll give at least an ESPN personality some credit. Stephen A. Smith gave the Suns a lot of praise for their crowd, which they deserve for Game 1 of the playoffs, of the Denver series.
That's fair. He also tried to trade Kuzma to us for nothing, so fuck him too.
Yeah, I agree.
Our revenge tour is going to involve a lot of dead bodies, but we're not talking about the Suns yet. What did I just promise the viewers / listeners, the listeners?
It's not the whole show.
I sent Dave down the primrose path.
That's
but I was
true.
talking about ESPN, not the Suns, but that led him to, that was my fault.
Yeah,
I linked them together.
We can easily trace how we got to this point, but nonetheless, I'm not going to allow it.
Yeah, right.
Instead, we're going to talk about E3. Look, we talk about video games on this show sometimes, and what bigger time of year to talk about them than E3, even if E3 is a husk.
I feel like you say that statement, and it's like a question mark. Like, what better time?
Well,
but, like, not a statement, like what that normally is. It's like, actually, maybe there is a better time.
For the listeners, I mean, the item on this bullet point has question mark, in addition to the question being asked at the top of the frame. So, yes, it is very much a kind of situation now.
So, it seems as though, I mean, after, of course, last year, the big news for E3 is that, 1, it's happening. So that's great. It's actually occurring. But then there's a lot of brands that won't be there. You know, Nintendo is there sometimes, but they kind of do their own thing. It seems like all the major players do their own thing, own celebration now. So E3 is kind of fallen by the wayside a bit as far as what it used to be.
It's too bad because I feel like, I mean, the alternative, what's been happening is Nintendo's like, we don't need to do E3. We're just going to do Nintendo Direct. So we're going to directly reach out to our fans and like, that's fine. You just think they're leaving something on the table. You would have to think, like, look at Comic-Con. It's like this huge event. It's super hyped. All these different like movie companies could do their own thing, but there's something that adds extra hype by doing it in an event. And there's no way that the big 3 can figure out how to all come together anymore.
Well, because E3 was always a sneak peek or a preview or a celebration of the year to come, essentially. And now things get leaked so easily. News changes too frequently, and people get pissed off when you don't meet the deadline or things get pushed back. Comic-Con, on the other hand, is more of just like hey, we like this stuff. Let's meet together. And obviously there's news and stuff that comes from Comic-Con, but there's more of hey, this is a celebratory, let's get together, while E3 was always sitting around, yeah, let's get together, but there's stuff coming. Let's hear about this cool stuff that's coming out soon.
I do think you have to wonder a little bit how much of this is just being tempered by expectations. If you want to promise a game right now, how sure are you that you can deliver on it?
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking just coronavirus implications, but also just cautionary tales like, say, Cyberpunk, where it's like, all right, well, we could debut this trailer or something in front of a big crowd, get everybody hyped, but then expectations will just keep growing, and we don't even know where we stand as a company right now.
Yeah, but
I don't know. It's a shame.
You're okay with that, though. Like, you don't always have to attach a date. The only time you run into problems is when in 2013 you're announcing Final Fantasy versus 15 or whatever that was at the time, and it was another 10 years before that actually came out. Then it starts to be like, okay, Metroid Prime 4 is going to be in a similar boat of like, it was announced, there was no date. They started building hype, and now it's been years where there's been no news. Actually, the only news is they've restarted development. So... yeah, I mean, there is potential for mistakes, but for the most part, it's just a way to start to put hype on new games coming out in the future. And I don't know why they just can't like figure that out together.
Because I think it was only a losing proposition. You either say this game is coming out and you got some hype on it, but then if you don't, the only way you can go is keep it level, because yay, we delivered on time. Everyone expected that. If you don't deliver on time, you're going to get the negative press because look at all this hype we built up. Sorry, never mind. You can't.
Yeah,
you can't
I gotta say, I don't agree though, because Cyberpunk sold a bajillion copies, and let me tell you, it was not because the game was super solid. It's because it had so much hype. So like, there's a value in it. There's a reason. But I guess, I mean, people smarter than me are opting to not join E3. It just feels like there's a way to get it back to where it was, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen. It seems like it's on the way out.
I feel like if a developer could keep a big project tight-lipped, not release a lot of info, and then at E3 come out and say, hey, guess what, guys? July 4th, this is coming out. Like... 3 weeks, here we go, this massive game, and like kind of have this huge push all at once to kind of build hype quickly. I think that could potentially work as a, hey, you don't have to wait for this. Here's this awesome game we've been developing. Here it goes, that type of thing. I know that comes with risks, obviously, but I think it could really create a big splash in what has become a, look at this clip for this game that's going to come out in 4 years. So it's a different strategy.
I'm torn because I kind of agree with both of you. On the one hand, Cyberpunk absolutely generated a ton of hype and benefited from that machine in place. I don't know if that's necessary for existing IPs. Like, I don't think Metroid Prime 4 would have suffered if it had come with less anticipation. If anything, it might be hurt by the fact that they just put this stupid stinger into E3, or I guess it was a direct, whatever it was, a couple of years ago. It's almost 800 days ago now, and they've done nothing since then. So it was like, what was the point then? Like it could exist in the future, I guess, but come with us. At the very least, I think if you're going to come with something at E3, it has to be more substantive than that. It can't be a Metroid Prime 4. It can't be a Elder Scrolls 6 where it's like, here's a 15-second thing on a title screen. Like, to me, that's a waste of time.
But I wonder, because this is actually really interesting, like marketing discussion. If a movie comes out and you're like, here's a name. And you're like, okay, and releasing in 5 years, you're like, wow, that seems like you're trying to get hype way too early. With a video game, there's a console attached to the video game. So I would be really fascinated to see if somebody could attach a monetary value to Nintendo announcing Metroid Prime 4, and all it is a stinger, and there's no news. How many consoles did that move? Or was it a part of moving? Who bought a Switch thinking, yeah, there's not a lot of killer apps right now, but just wait, Metroid Prime 4 is coming out. So there's some extra reason to get the hype. I agree with you, Chris. The caveat, the only way Dave's idea would work of this awesome game is coming out in 3 weeks is like if it's a Zelda. Like,
yeah. But again, I think it has to be the right one. But imagine if Rockstar says, all right, Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out on July 4th. Holy shit, what? Like, that would move the needle.
And you can get away with it on a non-AAA title, or at least a smaller scale one. Something like when Tetris 99 dropped. No build-up to it whatsoever. I don't remember seeing any rumors along those lines. Nothing. It was just all of a sudden like, here's a trailer, and oh, by the way, download this game right now. But that's not a years in development title that comes with a lot of additional risk if you don't pull it off right. So I don't know what the answer is. I just know that even the example Shaun just said is almost echoing Cyberpunk again, where it's like, did people pick up a next-gen system like a PS4 only to find out that the game was garbage on it because it took so long to come out? Like, did you get a Switch for Metroid Prime 4 and now that it's in development hell, it's going to be the Switch Pro or the next system before it even makes it? I mean, who knows? And is it worth, I guess, getting those extra units moved for some of the potential lost goodwill with your customer base? I have no idea. I'd love to know the metrics, but obviously Nintendo's not going to let those be known.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing 2012, 2013 E3 highlights of Kingdom Hearts 3 that just came out last year, I think. So 7 years.
Wait, when did you see, when did you see the clips of Kingdom Hearts 3?
2012, 2013.
No way. No, you didn't.
I found a video of it says
false.
2013 Kingdom Hearts 3 reveal trailer. So,
no way.
On IGN.
No way. That was 2012. That was like
13 then.
Recent, but it was like fairly recent.
Well, they had
Kingdom
another
Hearts
one
had a bunch of like garbage. Oh, I don't want to say garbage. I don't want to join that train. I liked a lot of the spin-offs, but like it was there weren't 3. And it's not like a hill I'm gonna die on, but I feel like I have to. I have to. This is like the guy at GameStop who said, "Don't play Ground Zeroes. It's just a tech demo for Metal Gear Solid 5." And I had to chime in and be like, "Actually, sir, that's incorrect." Do you know GameStop's actually probably my dream job? If all things being equal, I would much rather work at GameStop.
I agree. I worked there. I know how this.
Like the idea of GameStop. Not shilling membership plans and corporate nonsense, but just opening a video game shop and interacting with customers.
A place where people come and they ask me about games, and like I'm a consultant of like, yeah, you could check this out. When I go to GameStop and some schmuck, and they're working hard, I like them, but they're trying to like explain to me the game that I'm purchasing. And I'm like, dude, like, I probably know more about this game than you do. Like, just let me have my thing. You don't need to sell it. I'm buying it right now. You're fine.
Maybe they're just excited about it, Shaun. I imagine if you were behind the counter, you would do the same thing. Like, oh my God, you're buying Metal Gear Solid. Let me tell you, this is such a great game because blah, 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 blah. Like,
okay, that's probably fine. That's really fine. But it's because I'm like, here's what I love about it. And not like, oh, you're buying this game? Here's the premise. It's like, I'm crazy. How often does someone buy a game they don't know the premise at all? I guess it probably happens
a lot.
Like people see the box art and they're like, "Oh, this looks cool."
Like who bought Gramarye Damacy having a full picture of what that game was like?
Yeah, right. Okay, all right, that's fair. GameStop, you win today.
And parents picking up a game off the shelf that might be of interest to their kids. That's a big one too. But
that
you're
happens
right.
a lot.
For avid gamers, that doesn't exist. But for the casuals, which is what those people exist for.
Yeah,
Different
I mean,
story.
that's true. That I think the person Dave talked about were like, when is Mario coming out for the PlayStation?
Well,
I probably don't know.
I'll tell you what, you want to buy both systems. Here you go, ma'am.
Exactly.
There you go. Have a nice day. Buy them both. Mario's going to be on one of them. I'm going to get a nice commission. See you later.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's a good tactic. So, I mean, for E3, what are we actually like hoping for, if anything?
Nothing that's going to happen because I want some of the titles that I'm looking forward to. Grand Theft Auto come out, Persona, Breath of the Wild, I guess, is the closest that I have to actually being a smidge of reality is Breath of the Wild 2. So I guess that's what I'm looking forward to.
I feel like there's a chance, though, right? Like there's a chance we could get a Persona 6 Stinger. There's a chance a Grand Theft Auto 6.
I almost feel like that's more likely to be for a Persona, I think it's more likely to be a Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah, I mean probably that could
E3.
be.
Despite how big E3 is, that's more of a US thing. So that one maybe. I mean GTA 6 maybe. I feel like it's not unreasonable to think that you could see an Odyssey 2 trailer or something along those lines that uses the same engine. We talked about this off air, but like it seems a shame not to use those same resources, especially in a time like this with COVID, where resources are tighter and everybody's kind of scrambling. There better be something on Breath of the Wild 2, or Nintendo fans are going to riot, fair or not. I think that's almost more so true than Metroid Prime 4, which at this point everybody's kind of like, eh.
I just have to say, it's a millionth time we brought this up. Sometimes I don't know what Nintendo's doing. So like they have Metroid Prime. They had a developer figure out how to do first-person Metroid Prime for 3 of them. Great games. They're like, you know what? We're going to go in a different direction for 4. And then that developer botches it so bad, they just go back to the original anyway. It's like, what? Why didn't you just start with Retro? What happened?
I mean, sometimes those crazy chances have paid off for Nintendo, but there are times where they do seem like they're kind of tone deaf too, or at least wasting time at the very least. We talked at ends about at no end about the virtual console and its foibles over the years.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like you're costing yourself money. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, the Super Mario All-Stars debacle. Like there's just all these different examples of times where it just doesn't seem like Nintendo has their finger on the pulse. And then other times they go against the grain and they knock it out of the fucking park. So,
Well, and it's like they're so often their marketing is the issue. Like,
Yeah.
and you brought up too Wii U. I was in the GameStop again, and I chimed in again when they were like, Wii U, what a trash system. I was like, well, you know, the marketing, absolutely. People didn't know what it was. Is it an upgrade? Is it the same system? Is it an add-on peripheral? But yeah, I was like, you know, it was the precursor to the Switch. Had some good ideas, some great games, but their marketing was terrible. The way they communicated it was absolutely awful.
It just sucks for the people who kind of were the guinea pigs who bought it. In a sense, it didn't have a ton of games that came out for it. Yeah, I know.
Mhm.
You did an unboxing on our channel for it.
And now most of those games have been ported over anyways.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So
the
I
whole
buy them
thing.
twice, so that's great.
And you know, you look back at something like the DS now, like that and the 3DS were just phenomenal systems that just crushed the market, right? When the lead up to the DS was happening, coming off the Game Boy Advance, people were like, what the hell is the second screen? What do I need this for? I don't want a touch screen on my video game. I don't know. It's just sometimes they duck and weave in weird ways and it works out, and other times you just scratch your head. And
What was the weirdest about that was it came out at the same time that the PSP was coming out. And so I'm in the market being like, okay, so there's one that gives me console graphics on a handheld. And then there's like this over here, which is like barely upgraded from the Game Boy Advance. That's not entirely true, but it was not a huge jump. So yeah, I mean, Nintendo, they're going to do their own thing. Breath of the Wild 2. I would be shocked if we don't hear something.
It's interesting that the things we're looking for are Breath of the Wild 2 and Odyssey 2, because most times Nintendo goes in a different direction with those franchises. They change it up. They have a different feel, setting, anything like that. But these are both seemingly going to be direct sequels. So it's interesting that they're going that direction with their two biggest franchises.
Well, and we don't know Odyssey 2 is happening, to be
Correct.
fair. But, I mean, there's some precedent, like...
Galaxy.
Well, Galaxy is
Yeah.
maybe the only one actually. I mean, you could say like Majora's Mask in the same way. It was like it was a sequel that used obviously the same assets, the same
Triforce
engine.
Heroes, built off of with the the stupid other one,
Dynasty Warriors?
Two Worlds thingy.
Between Two Worlds. Yeah.
Oh.
The Triforce Heroes basically reused everything from that game.
Yeah. So it could happen. And if I'm Nintendo, I'm like, you spent years developing this really unique engine, especially for Breath of the Wild, but even for Odyssey. And like, it makes sense to reuse it at least for one sequel. I know you're always trying to innovate, but like, milk it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. We don't
Just
want
don't
the
make us wait
Pokemon.
7 years in between.
Yeah, we don't need the Pokemon treatment where you do re-releases every couple of years, and we don't need like the EA treatment of doing a sports game that's just a reskin. But you can reuse things a little.
Mm-hmm.
There's some tolerance for that, especially if it's just more of what people want. Like, who's going to complain about two bona fide Game of the Year candidates getting follow-ups?
Yeah.
Assholes.
And we got to get something Halo at this point, right? Like,
Is that a franchise, or are we going? Is that like Mega Man status at this point?
I mean, it's hard to tell sometimes. And because everything you hear is like whispers of danger. And I'm a little nervous because it's a, like in many ways, it's a new team working on it. And everything I'm hearing about it is like the graphics aren't actually that good. The gameplay, they're still trying to figure it out. I am a little bit concerned. And if Halo doesn't smash it out of the park, you really got to start asking yourself, what role does a Series X play in the market? You have PS5 for unique games, but it also has like the crossovers, right? And then you have a PC if you really just like that PC, I don't know, dashboard. So like why at this point, I almost have to start asking myself, and I love Xbox, but like if the few and far between exclusives aren't even going to be that good, like what am I doing with my $500?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're going to spend that much to play one game that you would have. Otherwise, you're going to get PlayStation for all the other games anyway. So, yeah, it's tough to justify spending that much money on something without a purpose, essentially.
Well, so, and Dave, so I have obtained a PS5. It's a long story. So I have the house has a PS5 if we need it. I'm willing to share it.
Okay, you're gonna bring it down and give it to me. Got it. Cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And I was debating getting like Resident Evil 8, but I was like, no, I like to save cross-platform for Xbox, and that gives me like more of a reason to get an Xbox. And then I was like, what kind of mental gymnastics are you standing in this GameStop? I spent a lot of time in GameStop recently, I guess.
Yeah, I was wondering why this kept coming up because you were talking about this experience, and I'm like, I haven't been at a GameStop in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Must have invested in them. He's riding the train.
There you go. Yeah, I got to check in. I'm a stakeholder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I realized like I was convincing myself to like the Xbox. So they just better deliver on this and the Bethesda, and at this point I'm almost hoping for more exclusivity on things like the Elder Scrolls for more than 6 months or whatever meaningless exclusivity they're gonna do. Fallout and other things like that, because at least it justifies having 2 of them.
I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more from Final Fantasy 16 as well, but we just got a decent amount on that, so I'm not sure what to expect there.
I think they will. I think Square Enix typically has used E3 for some big reveals. That might be a thing in the past now, but I would say I'm optimistic a little bit more 16 will happen.
Yeah.
At least Square Enix has an event at E3. Sony does not, so, you know,
yeah.
who knows what to make of that.
Which means no God of War 2 information, or 5, whatever they're going to end up calling
it was delayed, so that's all
it was probably
the information
unlikely,
we have.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Nintendo.
I want you to know I refrained from saying this as a thing that I want because I saw it coming up in the queue.
That's why it's on the planner, so you don't have to do it. Otherwise, I'd be like, oh, I got to switch slides. So, one of the rumors about what could happen at E3, although it's seeming less likely as we approach it here, is that there could be a new Switch announced. Some have called it the Switch Pro, knowing that Nintendo is going to be something else that's stupid. Maybe the Switch U, who can say? If there were a new system, and we don't know exactly what it would look like, but there's some rumors out there, it would be 4K when docked, a much more smooth transition into the handheld mode, at least 1080p, a much better screen there, better frames per second in both modes. Would you be interested in it, given the Switch's popularity so far and all of us seemingly liking ours, or are you content with the one you have right now?
There was a guy at GameStop that was like, I just don't know if I believe these. Sorry, I laughed at Dave. I don't know if I believe these rumors. 4K? It's not going to. And it's like, dude, no. No one's saying the system is going to be 4K. It's when it's docked on the TV, it's going to be capable of 4K. Like, no one knows anything what they're talking about. It drives me crazy.
And, like, what would you need a 4K handheld for? It's like an 8-inch screen.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you possibly need that resolution on an 8-inch screen for?
Yeah. Anyways, I'm very interested. And I've gotten to the point where I am aware that my income is a little more disposable these days than like when I was in high school. I'm not even trying to brag. I'm just saying right now I'm making more than I did in high school at Sonic. So
congratulations.
Yeah,
you
thank
did
you.
It. And more than you would have made at GameStop.
Yeah,
one more plug.
Probably in my whole career at GameStop.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a little bit more willing now to, I see an upgrade that I want, I'll probably get it. And I can give like my old Switch to Maisie, and that will like help me get over it mentally too, finding even more value in it. But yeah, it's the same Switch, but capable of more, hopefully faster load times, and a larger screen. I'm all about it.
The benefits, it's a luxury, I guess is the best thing you can say with it. Like you said, like if you have someone else in your house, like I'm kind of with you in the sense that I would be interested in it if I had, if I have the extra disposable income and I'm not putting it towards anything else. I'm like, yeah, it'd be great to give the old Switch to the kids and let them play that. And then I have my own that they aren't going to play with or anything like that. And then I can make sure that, I have my games on it, or, their grubby little fingers won't be on it, that type of thing. So there is some benefit in there, but overall, maybe I'm the weird one. The upgrade to 4K versus 1080p isn't enough for me to really like be hyped about it and spend a whole lot of extra money on things.
Yeah,
it's nice.
It's not quite the same jump as when we went from like 480p to 720.
Exactly.
Where it was a night and day improvement, or even from 720 to 1080, which was a noticeable difference. There is certainly an uptick from 1080p to 4K. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that, but at a certain point, it's almost like an embarrassment of riches, where it's not. It doesn't move the needle by itself. I only just recently replaced this monitor that we do everything on this with a 4K monitor. I could have done it 3 or 4 years ago, as much time as I spend on it, but there wasn't as much content that supported it. Now it's a different story. As far as like the replacement, I'm kind of with you. Like I could give the old one away or keep it as a backup or use that for like recording stuff and have a separate thing so I don't have to keep moving it. It depends on what else is coming. The proposed picture, we have one in the video version of this. Like a better grip would be good because giant hands like mine don't really hold the Switch well when it's in handheld mode. Like I find it uncomfortable to game in long stretches with. So that could be a seller for me in a way that other people might not care. I'm not sure if I'm super stoked, but I'm happy to have one exist. I think my interest would increase over time.
It's the same thing that's happened like when the PS4 Slim came out, or like the PS3 Slim, I guess it was, or when there's been different models of the same system that have come out with slight upgrades. I'll probably get it if I need to because my old system broke or something, but I'm not gonna spring to go get it if my old system's working just fine.
Yeah, Slim's not the right, but like the Pro, PS4 Pro, perfect example, or the Series Xbox One X.
Yeah.
Yikes. That was one that I have, and I actually can see like a bit of a difference. So to me, that's worth it. But yeah, I mean, but to use your example though, Dave, when they're like, now it's the PS whatever, but it's thinner. It's like, I don't give a shit about that. Yeah. So if it's like cosmetic stuff like that, I care less about. If it's going to impact performance, I'm more about. And the other thing this could open up is, can they start releasing Switch Pro exclusive games? And I don't know that I want them to do that necessarily, but that's an avenue that they could pursue.
Yeah, well, that's games drive the systems for sure. I mean, I've wanted a PS5 since it came out, but then I think about what games would I actually end up playing on it, and it kind of dampens my excitement for it. Now that's going to change as more games come out, but at the moment, I mean, there's not a
Souls,
ton.
Dave, Demon Souls.
There's not.
Don't you want to play Dark Souls but harder?
Yeah, there's not a ton of games that I want to play on it.
I'm in the same boat, and I'm a little bit frustrated if for no other reason than I'm like, a new system would be cool. It's nice to have the option, but I only upgraded to a PS4 Pro because my old one died, sort of along the lines of what Dave said. And then when I did, I got to play like Horizon Zero Dawn on it. I was actually playing that before it died, and then afterwards it was like, oh wow, like this is noticeably a little bit prettier and stuff. Like this is neat. But it wasn't enough of an impetus just to be like, all right, I'm doing it. I need this slight uptick in graphical performance. Load times could be a big thing, but that's not an issue on the Switch, right? When we got our hands on a Series X, because Cody had one and we were playing it for a bit during our trip, it was remarkable. Just we knew that was the case. We talked about it at length on the show, but just watching it go in and out of games, rapid fire, load up from hibernation on demand, that was really neat. And that was a thing where I was like, yeah, that definitely confirms me wanting to get one of these. I don't expect that type of upgrade on a Switch Pro, but I still hope the rumors are true. The one complicating factor is the shortages of all the tech, and that could be why we don't see an announcement, because they may just be like, well, the Switch is still selling to the point where it doesn't have enough supply right now, so do we need to mess with the waters right now?
It's almost like, I wonder, and again, we can bring, I feel like, a different perspective. I don't know if it's an age thing or is it what we know, like, more about like the world and how it works, but like if they were to do a Switch Pro, would that at this point cannibalize sales, or do they feel like it's such a different audience that like it doesn't matter and it's just going to add to the pool rather than maybe like take away from some of the other sales?
I think you have the Switch Lite already that's a little bit cheaper. If you have 3 different price points, Switch Pro, Switch Lite, as 3 different price points, I think that can widen your audience because people will see, hey, I don't need everything and I can get this for cheaper. Sounds great, that type of thing. But you got to keep up with supply, of course, and that's been their big issue.
I think you're right. That would be what I would lean towards. I think it's interesting that they must have had these conversations of how soon is too soon. Should we wait? And then obviously the whole shortages is another factor there. And
the user base is such an interesting thing because it increased a lot during the pandemic. All video game systems did because people were at home, had more time. So that's a factor too, is like now a lot more people bought a Switch. So would enough people buy a Pro who already own a Switch to offset the ones that you might displace from introducing a new product? I mean, again, it's all fascinating to me, and we'll never be privy to any of it because that's like core dynamics of a company. So
yeah, and for what it's worth, like it wasn't like long. It wasn't Mass Effect elevator lengths, but the load times in like Pokemon Snap, for example, it's like you load it up and you're waiting for the level to load, and it takes a little while.
Yeah, they exist.
And that's why so it's going to be interesting for the PS5. The two first games I'm going to play for it: Demon Souls, which is a get your ass kicked, want to kill yourself, it's so hard game, and then Returnal, which is the exact same thing. So I'm going to like associate my PS5 with like just being miserable constantly. But what's going to help with that is the load times. And like you kind of hear about that. Are you frustrated because you're dying, or because now you just have to sit there and let it soak in for the 100th time in the last hour? Like, I'm sure both a little bit, but the load times don't help.
Yep. All right. That's enough video game talk. We put it off as long as possible. We dedicated at least a half an hour to a non-Suns topic, so now it's time for a Suns topic. They beat the hell out of the Lakers in Game 6.
So, like, literally and metaphorically, we have destroyed the Lakers. Like, they're talking about, like, blowing up the team. Not like Anthony Davis and LeBron, but they're like, who can they possibly keep? Like, they're tearing Dennis Schroeder, dragging him through the mud. Gasol and Kuzma, they're trying to trade them out of town. It's like, it's just nuts.
I saw a story today that said Andre Drummond was pissed because part of the reason he signed with them in free agency in the midseason, when he got dropped from whatever team he was on, the Pistons, I think, wherever he was previously, Cleveland. Part of the reason he signed with them is because they promised him a starting job. They promised it to him, and then he didn't play at all in Game 6, and now he's pissed because he didn't play at all. It's like, dude, you sucked. Like, I kind of wish you would have played.
Yeah, and you also shouldn't promise something like that, because you should be ready to make lineup changes on the fly, especially in the playoffs. It's all about adjustments, right? Sometimes to the point of being overrated. But what were they going to do if they played a team that went super small against them? Well, we said we would play Drummond, so I guess he's going to have to chase a guard the whole night? Like,
LeBron
what are we
will
talking
figure it
about?
out.
Well, I wonder if that promise was why they waited even until they did to start sitting him more.
Could be.
I mean, when did Gasol first hit the court? For meaningful minutes.
Second half of Game 5.
That's like that. That's what I feel like maybe we saw him a little bit earlier than that. Either way, though, it was definitely later in the series. They went with Drummond like way longer than they should have. Bad move. Actually, and just in general, Lakers did not make a lot of adjustments throughout the course of this series, which is why, like, again, like we shook the foundations of the core, and I love it. I love that it was us. I really do.
So the fun, I mean, obviously beating the Lakers is fun in its own right. Beating the Lakers after they tried clowning on us, everyone assumed the series was over. Everyone's like, all right, well, Lakers moving on. Suns have got some stuff to figure out. And then they didn't win a game after that and got blown out in 2 straight games. There's something so extra satisfying about that. The fact that Lakers fans, I saw something hilarious on Reddit. I thought it was funny, where a Lakers fan went to the Nuggets subreddit and said, hey guys, I'm really pulling for you. I want the Suns, I want you guys to beat the Suns. Jokic is the MVP, blah, 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 trying to be like, friendly fan. Every response from Nuggets fan was, go fuck yourself. Get out of here. Fuck the Lakers. Like, it was fantastic.
There was something similar on the Suns board of like, hey, you guys played really good and blah, blah, blah. Same thing. Fuck the Lakers. That was it.
The disdain the nation has for the Lakers is fantastic. The only, and this is a minor negative because I took some Schadenfreude out of it, but every single national podcast, show, and everything was not, hey, look at the Suns. They are kicking ass. They just destroyed the Lakers. It was, man, the Lakers are broken. How are they going to fix this? And it was like, they don't necessarily need to fix it. They were injured. They had roster problems. They never gelled. The Suns also kicked their ass, like, up and down the court. So
I think that's what frustrates me the most, is because the answers to those questions are already self-evident, and it just shows that they wanted to devote time to it.
Mm-hmm.
What I would have liked, the ultimate, not that I can complain about how that went, would have been if we'd beaten their ass just like this at full strength.
Yeah.
Then the response to that being, oh, are the Lakers broken? What are they going to do? Would have made more sense to me, because that was a team firing at all cylinders, and they still fell short. This one's easy. AD was hurt. They played much better when he was healthy. LeBron wasn't 100%. We took advantage. We were really good too, so it wasn't like it was just that, but that's what happened. It's not, we don't have to devote entire segments to it.
It's true. But the picture up in the top in the screen there with LeBron pointing at Booker is just great. I don't know. There's something about that was they seemed so angry on the court, but then LeBron is giving Booker credit, and I think the best part to come is the nation is finally figuring out that Booker isn't some empty stats guy. Like, we know that. Obviously, we've known that forever. But I feel like the country and the league is the casuals fans around the world are be like, oh, this Booker guy's pretty good. Like, he's really good.
I said this that night, but my favorite part of Game 6 was that Booker was the one who led it.
Yep.
I would have taken that win no matter what. I don't care how we got there, scratch claw, whoever gets numbers. If Jay Crowder wants to go for 40, that's fine too. But Booker being that focal in a win of that magnitude was big for all non-Suns fans who are not aware of what he's about.
You would not have assumed that the person channeling Kobe in Staples Center was not a Laker that night. It was Devin Booker.
Yeah. I mean,
that's wild. 47 points on ridiculous shooting. I mean,
8 of 10 from 3.
What can you say?
Yep. Timely buckets too. You know, the Lakers made that bit of a run in the fourth quarter, and he just stepped up. He made a bucket when he needed to, and then Chris Paul did too. I mean,
so much of that 47 was like not. Now it's garbage time. The team got up by 30, and Devin is just scoring. That was in the beginning of the game when it was still a game, and that's what allowed us to get that lead. He put the whole team on his back. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more we can say except we're just elated for the fact of beating the Lakers.
The weird thing, though, again, it's like, I don't want to be like the media, you know, I don't want to bring that back, but it bothers me that there always has to be a take. And so the take, I saw so many podcasts like, can we admit this series is over? Actually, the same title on multiple podcasts after game 3. Right? So the Lakers had won 2 in a row. Can we admit this series is over? They still had 2 games to go. Didn't matter. And then, you know, a few days later, obviously when the Suns win, it's what's wrong with the Lakers. They are broken. They're done. It's like, okay, that's probably not true either. Like, if these 2 guys aren't hurt, they still have a good chance at beating us. Although I will say we were up in game 4, even before Anthony Davis got hurt. I do want to. I'm not saying we would have won this series. I'm also not saying we would have lost if they were fully healthy. So let's just put that out there. But it's just the pendulum swinging is crazy, and you see with Dallas. You know, Luka Doncic is God, and then they lose, and it's like, well, he's not a winner. What can Dallas do? They're done. It's like, it's literally to the point where had they won game 7, you would be like praising the coming of like the next whoever. But because they lost, they're completely dysfunctional and broken. It's like, it can't be both like that extreme all the time, but it is.
I mean, it comes down to, I mean, the playoffs are all that matters, which drives somebody like the Lakers or the Clippers to not think the regular season matters, because in a way it doesn't. If you perform in the playoffs, that's all that's going to matter. Nobody cares what you did in the regular season. However, the Lakers did show that the regular season does matter to perform in the playoffs.
Yeah. And hopefully we're going to prove to Denver that the regular season not that they were taking it off, but the point is we have home court advantage, and it is the adage of home court being like the 6th man is kind of proven true with us right now. Like, it's been ridiculous.
We've got it now.
I love the fan support. There's going to be a photo in the next slide as we shift topics here, but the last thing I'll say about this is, to that point you were just mentioning, almost all chalk won. Despite how topsy-turvy the season was, the only upset was the number 5 Hawks being the number 4 Knicks, and the Hawks had a better record than the Knicks in the second half and barely finished behind them. So at the end of the day, for all the posturing and moving around, and is Dallas much better than the Clippers and all these other matchups, all the top seeds won. I got the 2 seed dispatched the 7, and yeah, we talked to death the points about how we got there, but at the end of the day, the higher seed did what they were supposed to do and sent that overrated Lakers team home.
Yeah, it's a good point. We were the underdogs for sure. But at the end of the day, we had the higher seed, and we're not going to go down in history as one of the only 2 seeds to get beaten by a 7 seed. Didn't happen. So good on us.
Feels good.
So now we look ahead. This is being recorded on Tuesday night. This is before game 2. That's Wednesday night. On Thursday, we have the show airing, but this is before game 2, basically. With the closeout of the Lakers and then game 1, which was pretty sound victory, a close game, a well-contested one, but
until it wasn't.
All of a sudden, the floodgates open and the team pulled away in the third and fourth quarter. This primarily is aimed at me and Shaun, but now that the Lakers are dispatched, does our prediction change? How far can this team actually go?
Okay, that's fair.
Because I know what I said.
Yeah,
you're still on the record, and the Nets seem like they're stomping the shit out of the Bucks, so your prediction looks pretty solid still. Mm-hmm. Shaun and I have to reevaluate. Now, we both had said if we know Anthony Davis is going to get hurt, neither of us is taking Lakers in 6. That's not even like revisionist. It's just, I don't know what I would have done, but it wouldn't have been that. However, our predictions are both wrong, so we got to make new ones and see if we can at least get partial credit.
Gosh, I mean, I don't want to be overconfident, but in the same breath, realize that like nothing I say, like me being overconfident or not confident enough, doesn't mean shit. The Suns aren't like listening, and I'm gonna kill their confidence or anything. So
hang on to your every word, Shaun.
So with that said, I mean, I feel pretty confident, and going into the series with Denver, I would have said Denver was one of the teams that I was less afraid about. Denver, Portland, Memphis, Dallas were the teams I didn't really think, oh man, how are we going to win this? So, I mean, I'm still pretty confident. I hope we can do it in like 5 games. I hope it's not actually going to take like 7. Last night's game would indicate to me it's probably closer to 5 than 7, but anything could happen. We didn't play that good until we did, and we still like blew them out. Yeah, Jokic also, I think, feels like he probably has a lot of room to play better. Part of that was definitely Ayton. Part of that was other factors. I think he got tired, which kind of Ayton contributes to, I think, as well. But I expect he's going to play better. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I'm feeling good. So if we can get through Denver, then it's like Utah and LA, and that's almost like a pick'em series to me. That's tough. I'm probably a little more afraid of the Clippers because we seem to match up so badly against them in every time we play them. And Paul George just likes killing us. I don't know. They have a lot of animosity, it feels like, for our team. And I don't really know why, but we just don't seem to like each other at all. Maybe it's Chris Paul. I don't know.
Which Paul George comes out, though? Paul George, the regular season that seems to want to kill us, or playoff P, who usually sucks?
Mm-hmm. I'm afraid it's going to be the regular season one, but only against us. And he's going to go lay an egg in the finals if that's what ends up happening.
That'd be worst.
When we made it through the Lakers, I really let myself start thinking for the first time, our team actually has a shot at the finals. Mm-hmm. So I'll just, let's say Denver in 6.
You mean we'll beat Denver in 6?
Yeah. Sorry, we'll beat Denver in 6. We'll beat Utah in 6, and then probably lose in 5 or 6 to the Nets. But we'll see. Like if Harden's gonna keep getting hurt, like who knows? And that's still a really good team even without Harden. Like
they showed that. But they showed that on Monday night.
Yeah.
Boy, 49-point lead.
On the Bucks, on it at one point, not anymore. I don't think. On like one of the few teams you would say has a real shot.
Everybody thought that was going to be the series of the second round, and while Milwaukee hasn't played a home game yet, boy, has it been a nightmare so far.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on record even in that last episode as if we did beat the Lakers, I was not concerned about the second round. And then I was more worried about the conference finals because both those potential teams were bad for us. That still rings true to me. Like you said, though, I've at least started to think maybe we could win a title. And I was not thinking that before the Lakers series. Even if I thought we could maybe beat them, it's like, okay, first we have to get through that, and then it's the other stuff. And it's like, well, the first part's already so hard, right? It's not to overlook the Nuggets. I think if they get Will Barton back, that would help quite a bit because their backcourt is in shambles right now. If you're having to rely on Austin Rivers to play substantial minutes, you're already lost. It's just a testament to how good Jokic is. But if Ayton can even be close to Jokic's level, and he was in game 1, they're in for a rough series. And I hate saying that because it's sort of like what Shaun said. It's almost speaking from a point of overconfidence. It feels like cockiness, but I just think that's true. Like Aaron Gordon played really well. Michael Porter Jr. hurt his back and didn't really play the second half that much, but he looked okay. Jokic was decent, not great, obviously can be better. and they didn't have enough. And more importantly, it felt like our offense ran the way it was supposed to in a way it never could against the Lakers because their defense is so solid.
Holy cow. And so not only that, but the feeling of not having animosity towards the team was really nice. Really nice. Yeah. I don't like Austin Rivers. And
like he's a little piece of shit.
And Campazzo probably is kind of
Campazzo annoyed me a couple of times, but I think that's what he's meant to do. He's an irritant. And, props for him for stepping up the way he has. But everybody else, I'm like, Jokic is cool. Like Paul Millsap, I'm glad he's having one last kind of good run with another team here. That's great. Like, JaMychal Green is a little too physical for my liking sometimes, but I got no animosity towards him. So, when we run into the conference finals, both those teams have players I despise. And the Lakers did too.
Yep. You mentioned it, Chris. All Ayton has to do is be close to Jokic. And I think he outplayed Jokic in game one, defensively and offensively. I mean, he made Jokic work, and the score reflected that. If he is even one step behind Jokic as far as, on the stat line, essentially, he plays into a draw, essentially, the Suns can win the series in 5 easily, I think.
I love the takes. I love the takes of, and I get it. You're a fan. You're trying to rationalize, but a lot of more than one fan was like, I think the coach Michael Malone, he was just like testing. He was willing. This is a white flag game. You just want to see what the Suns were about. It's like no coach in a 4-win series is going to throw away 25% of that just to see what the other team is about. That's it. No way.
That's not as bad, but it's almost as bad as the takes where LeBron didn't play very hard in game 5 because he was just setting up his legacy. It's like, no,
it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. No one is going to do that. They're not going to give away a game. It's not going to happen.
Regular season, sure, they'll do that in the regular season, sure, I can get that, but like not in the playoffs. You can't.
They actually were right though. He did set up his legacy in game 6.
I mean, that's actually
not the way they meant.
Yeah, that's true.
But it did end up happening because my evaluation of LeBron did take a slight step back over the course of this. Fair or not, injured or not. To your point, nobody would waste a game. Nobody would waste a quarter.
Yeah.
Maybe you try a particular matchup. Maybe this person defends this guy. Give him a look for a few minutes. Or you try a lineup you didn't play a lot in the regular season to see if it gives you a bit of momentum for a 3-4 minute span. You don't. Playoff games are too valuable, and there's too much variability. You can't afford to throw away one game and then have somebody get hurt, and now you're staring up at a 2-0 deficit. Like, nobody does that stuff. There's a talent gap in the NBA, and you almost always see it over the course of a 7-game series, but it's not such a wide gap that you can fuck around like that. No way in hell.
And I mean, really, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking the only way we lose to Denver, like a game, I'm not even saying a series, is like their defense is not good enough to not, for us to not get pretty much everything we want. So if there's a game or even 2 where the shots just aren't falling, fine, it happens sometimes. But like the looks are going to be open. There was one, Bridges in the corner. Michael Porter Jr. was like wandering like to the other corner. It's like, what are you doing? He's wide open. And sure enough, they hit him. I actually think he missed that shot.
He missed that one, yep.
But he was wide open for miles. It was crazy. It's like that's after the Lakers, who have the best best defense, period, but their perimeter defense is phenomenal. Well, we're going to get anything we want.
You have a team who has some of the best corner 3-point shooters in the league. Mikal Bridges is one of the best corner 3-point shooters in the league. I don't know his exact percentage from the corner, but it's good.
Yeah.
Denver gives up the most corner threes. Oops. That's going to be a problem for them.
I mean, I don't know what Bridges shot from the corner, but he shot 43% from 3 for the season, and it's higher than that in the corner. We know that for certain. So
I mean, to me, the X factor is actually like Jay Crowder, because I feel like teams hedge a little bit to allow him to take that shot. That's why his volume is so high. That's my theory. It passes the eye test at least. If he's hitting on those threes, I mean, this is over. There is no chance. Now, if he's taking 10 threes a game like he was in the beginning of round 1 and making 2 of 20 again, then we might have some problems. But if he's gonna be able to score, like, this is over. So, Chris, I interrupted you though. I sidetracked us on animosity. I got your prediction for 2. What was it for 3 with Utah and Clippers?
It's Nuggets in 5, which I said before the series.
Yeah,
Shaun has me on record.
Yep.
And then, and that's the nice thing about it is nothing has dissuaded me from that so far. And honestly, I think it could be a sweep, but I think Jokic is that good. And either a hot shooting night for them or a cold night for us could make a difference. I think Utah is going to beat the shit out of the Clippers.
I hope so, man. I really do.
I could be very wrong about that. That's a gut feeling more than it is a mind thing. And if we were to play them in the conference finals, I would take us in 7, the lose of the Nets in 6. That's where I would go if I had that gun to my head right now, family on the line.
See, I also said Utah. This is gonna be a great case study for, is the star power in the league, like, is that really all that matters? Because Utah is a better constructed team. I think they should win. If Kawhi and Paul George manage to pull this one off, I'm truly going to be like, I guess teams don't, except for the Suns, in a way. It's all just about the star power. Because like Donovan Mitchell, he's good. He's really good, but like he's not a Kawhi.
But this is sort of showcasing what the league has become now. It's 2 stars and then role players around them and how well do they fit. And the Suns even fit that mold. Now, Ayton is a better third than a lot of these other teams have.
Yeah.
But, for the Jazz, it's Mitchell and Gobert. And Conley's pretty good too, sure. Kind of like Ayton. For the Clippers, it's Paul George and Kawhi, and then other players that fit around them. The Lakers, us, the Bucks. I mean, the exception right now is Brooklyn, and if they only have 2 healthy, they sort of kind of fall into the same mold. Because some of their best lineups this season, since they were without Harden for such a long stretch, were exactly what they had on the floor against the Bucks, and you could see how well they gelled from experience playing with each other. So, I mean, you're kind of right, and those 2 stars definitely trump what Utah has, but those are all stars at play. So if Utah's team, as well as they played during the regular season, can't overcome the Clippers, I do still think you have a point. It's just everybody that's left, except maybe Atlanta, kind of fits that same mold. Sixers. I mean, even Atlanta at this point, it's Trae Young and then a bunch of like B+ type players.
I kind of like Atlanta, like as the villains. Like I don't like them, but then I like them because they're just like the plucky,
they're young
bad guys.
Yeah, and what the hell? They talk shit if you can back it up.
I gotta say though, I am very petty in the sense that many people say that Trae is better than Ayton, and we should have picked Trae instead of Ayton, which is stupid. First of all,
less people are saying that now, though. Even with Trae going off, people are seeing Ayton finally, and they're being like, "Oh, he's pretty good." And a lot of it's a 2-way. Yeah, he can score. Yeah, he leverages the defense. But
I'll get it.
Okay, Chris is gonna go open the door, but he's coming alive on offense, but his defense has been so huge. And you're starting to see the value and, like, dare I say, the reemergence of the center in this league. After how long do we hear? Like, the center's dead. It's a dead position. Everything's small ball. And it's like Ayton and Embiid and Jokic and many others like, maybe that was premature. So I love it. I also love, Dave, that the 2018 draft, like, wow. You know, everybody. And like Doncic, he's not in the round anymore, but he had a great first series. Trae Young, Ayton, like, it's awesome.
Mikal Bridges, just.
Oh my God, yeah, I forgot. He's a little bit lower, but not by much.
He was 10th pick, but
our core, you guys, I know you know it, but like, it's like scary how young we are and how good we are and how well we should be able to keep these players together, really.
Well,
as long as Sarver's willing to, like, we have the capability. If he was willing to pay the luxury tax, it's going to come down to if he wants to or not. I think he might after a decade of irrelevancy, but we'll see.
One last thing I'll mention just about that, the Suns' chances going forward. Chris Paul's health is going to be huge, especially against a team like the Clippers, I think. Chris Paul shut down any chance of a Denver comeback in that fourth quarter. I mean, he looked like Chris Paul again, and it was shot after shot. It's like, hey, Denver made a tiny little run because they hit a couple shots and pulled to within 12 or something like that. And Chris Paul said, nope, never mind, we're good. And having someone like that right now is so huge on a finals run, because you're going to have games in the regular season that people will steal from you, where they get hot in the fourth quarter and hit a few shots, and all of a sudden, oh crap, we can't hold our lead. Chris Paul shuts that down. It's like, all right, that happened in the Lakers game 6. The Lakers got it to 10 at one point with 4 minutes left. I'm like, everyone's clenching and just scared. And Chris Paul said, I got this, and hit 2 straight shots.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Early in the season, it seemed like both Booker and Paul were not necessarily sure what to do in the fourth quarter, and they were almost deferring to each other too much. I actually really like the idea of Booker attacking in the first quarter like he has been in these last few successful games, and then deferring a little bit more to Paul down the stretch. They can both conserve some energy that way, and it's not like Booker can't still take some like crunch time possessions and convert them. But to me, that seems like the best distribution. Let Booker come out hot. He's still good enough now in his career where he can look for other teammates and get them involved, but he doesn't have to defer to them. Let him get his numbers early, have Paul close.
That was so good in the Denver game because Denver really tried to cut him off, I think, a lot and hedge hard on screens with him. He found the open man. I mean, he made amazing cross-court passes to Mikal Bridges on the weak side.
I mean, I feel like Denver did a lot wrong in that game.
Yeah, they did.
But one of them was if you're going to let Booker score 20 points, like that, good. But then if you're also going to let him, he had close to 10, if not
7 assists.
You can't let him be a decent scorer and also a playmaker.
8.
Yeah.
You can't let him on the verge of a double-double.
Yeah.
And then Chris Paul also having double. Like there was one stat we had like 26 of 40 shots were assisted, and it's like
30 of 43, I think it was
the final tally. Yeah, and that's actually we can do better than that.
Yeah, we can.
I just want to. It's crazy, and depending on how we end up doing, I was telling you, I have 2 takes. One was, if we do win the title, it's going to be, I don't even know what I'm going to think because I've spent this whole season waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's not going to be like if the Suns had won in 2005 where that was like expected. This is going to be like, I'm going to be speechless because like, I'm just waiting for something to go wrong still. And it's like, this is the season that like it never did.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like the NBA draft after we win the title and Sean's be like, man, I really hope something bad doesn't happen and we lose our playoff run.
It's like Shaun. We were up by like 30 and I was like having a stroke and Chris was like, dude, like we're fine.
And it happened again in game 1. It was like 16 with 4 minutes left and then went to a TV timeout and Shaun was like, all right, well, we're pretty close to closing the door. And I'm like, this is over.
I will say the progress that I had though was that I was feeling good, but I was unwilling to say that it was over. I was like, there's, I'll feel good when there's 60 seconds and
we
we're
don't want the Gary
digits.
Bender situation where we're proclaiming things over when it's like a 2-point lead in the third quarter.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. The other take was, I think we can look back and say, as difficult as it was, maybe like the Lakers series was a blessing in disguise. Yeah. Like having to deal with that defense, I think just makes you so much sharper. And then when you don't have to after that, you're like, oh my God, it's so open. We can get back to playing our game. And it's kind of like trial by fire. And it could be exactly what we needed to kind of like sharpen ourselves.
And also, I'll bring it back to the fans again, because I tried mentioning in the beginning, got shut down, but the crowd, the energy in the game 1 was unbelievable. I mean, you could hear it through the TV. I wish I could have gone to that game. The Torrey Craig alley-oop lob.
Oh my God,
the roof blew off that place. It was incredible. And I think what the win over the Lakers did was it moved all those people who are on the fence, or maybe were waiting for the other shoe to drop, like Shaun was saying. All those people who were like, man, okay, the Suns had a good season, but yeah, here's LeBron, and here we go. We're gonna lose. And then after game 3, everyone was in that mode. Oh, great, here it is. The shoe dropped, and all of a sudden we beat the Lakers handily, and then we smashed the Nuggets game 1. We have this elation now. This holy shit, this could happen. It's happening, right?
Yeah,
Whew, feels great. And I think everyone's just letting that joy go, especially in the crowd. I mean, the picture of those kids, yeah, they're stupid, they're fun kids, stupid kids having fun, but that surmises how everyone's feeling right now, I think.
Yeah, it is a tiny bit frustrating that we've still gone to the only home loss.
Yeah, I know.
That hurts a little bit. And the energy was still great there, and the crowd was awesome still, and we made a push, and it was a good game. It was, if we'd been at game 3, that would have been infuriating.
Yeah.
It was bad enough watching it at home, but it does make me happy that the team seems to have been just as pissed off about that disrespect as I was watching from home, if not more so.
Yep.
And the 3 of us have shared these links in our group chat nonstop, but for fans or other listeners who didn't, there's a video out there that's just a 20-second stretch of Booker after his dunk going, what? Thought so. And then Chris Paul mimicking Andre Drummond, mimicking LeBron in the post, and Jay Crowder doing LeBron's salsa dance, which got him teed up and ejected. All of it happened in a quick span.
Yeah.
But the nice thing was, reading about it, a lot of times that would get some derision from fans. Everybody knew what that was about.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, oh, this is good. This is back to game 3, and this is the Lakers getting the karma they can shove right up their ass.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and like national pundits being like, comparing our arena, which like the Phoenix Suns arena, which I kind of like. Actually, I actually prefer that to like Oracle Arena, like in the heyday of the Golden State Warriors. And I was like, man, it's because Phoenix is a basketball. Arizona is a basketball state. Phoenix is a basketball town.
Yeah.
We don't give a shit about the Cardinals.
It's true.
I'm talking too much. Yeah, because some people do. I don't give a shit about the Cardinals. But like, generally speaking, when the Diamondbacks won the World Series, that was cool. It would pale in comparison to if the Suns won the championship. And we're starting to see that now. Even Bridges being like, I don't know, it could be like this.
There will be hundreds of thousands of people downtown dying in the summer if they were to win a title.
Yeah, I might have to. Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take to get off of work, but it's going to happen. That's a guarantee.
Yeah.
If they win, we're way off yet. We got to get.
We can lose 4 straight to Denver. Like, who knows?
We got to win 11 more games. Yeah. But at the very least, the possibility, I think, exists in my mind in a way it did not before. And that's kind of cool.
Yep.
So that is the end of the episode. We'll be back next week with another one. It'll probably be about the Suns again. I'm not even going to apologize for it anymore. It is what it is. If they're in the playoffs, we're going to talk about them.
We might be able to do something like this. I enjoyed this, actually. I will say. I don't know if the fans enjoyed it. If they're like, I kind of want you to do one or the other. I personally enjoyed mixing and matching a bit. So we'll see.
Yeah. The setup that we have now gives us the opportunity to do whatever we want with it. We can do 2 of something else and 2 of this or 1 of this or whatever the hell.
Yep.
Who knows? That's the end of this show. In between episodes, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com or youtube.com/objectionnetwork for new videos 7 days a week. We'll see you next time.